on the cable channels. If you're watching us, you'll know that, and on the SMC app. I'm going to call the meeting to order for August 31st, 2022, of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission. And first order of business is to review and act on the acceptance of minutes of the July 2022 meeting.
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we accept the minutes from the July 2022 Lake Quinsigamond Commission meeting.
Second.
Okay, that was good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Abstain? No, good. Okay, and the next one is to a review and approval of bills and expenses. What do we have?
Okay, from Papa's Hardware, we spent $179.99 for nylon rope for the buoys. We had an invoice from Pageant Environmental Services for the Brocelicore Pilot Study Plant Survey. That was $916. And then ESS Group, the Lake Quinsigamond Rare Species Monitoring, $3,450.
Oh, boy.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Where was that done?
The two studies were at Half Moon Bay.
Okay.
That was a follow-up from last year when we treated at Half Moon. We had to go back and see if the Potamogeton survived, and to check to see if the invasives we were targeting did not.
Okay. Thank you.
So-
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And it was successful. All right, so do I have a motion to accept the
So moved.
bills? Is there a second?
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposed or abstained? Okay. And next, public participation.
What
do we have?
One person,
One person?
Aaron.
Okay, so just to set the parameters is public participation as we have defined before. Basically, you have 3 minutes to, it's you, right, Karen? Yeah, you have 3 minutes, so come on up, introduce yourself. You can speak, tell us whatever you want, and not really designed for interactions or back and forth, but we're here to listen.
I previously distributed, I don't know, do all the commissioners have these?
I think we emailed them, but they probably don't
All
have
right,
them.
so
They don't have them with them
Can I
right
distribute
now.
this to the commissioners? Will that be okay?
Sure, you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, you want to
Second.
pass it to the back?
Yep. Apologize if you didn't have a chance to review this before, but I'll make it quick. My name's Garen Sahagan. I live 12 Tamarack Lane on Shrewsbury on Lake Quinsigamond, on the northeast end. I happen to live very close with Barbara to the Corzini boat ramp. And I'm proposing to modify the existing new no-wake zone around to protect the Corzini boat ramp. My narrative lays it out pretty clearly, but in essence, what's going on is the new no-wake zone, as it's currently configured, is basically confusing to most boaters, the average boater. And that's because it's so spread out, because it's so large. So what's happening is the buoy, some of the no-wake buoys are so far away from the ramp, over 700 feet, that boaters don't really understand what they're seeing. And so we're getting kind of unintended consequences where a boater sees the no-wake buoy, so he slows down, but he doesn't come off plane. He just below plane where he's making the biggest wave possible. and they think they're doing the right thing by slowing down, but they're not really going to no wake. Other unintended consequences there is dividing up the traffic of the lake. So we're seeing more boats rafting up to the north end of the lake. We're seeing a lot more traffic on the south end of the lake. There's a lot going on. But more importantly, it's confusing to the general boater. They see the no-wake buoys, but they're so far away from the ramp that it doesn't make sense to them. So we live so close to it that we routinely see boaters literally completely ignore the no-wake zone. They go at full speed right through. Skiers, tubers, you name it. And what I'm thinking is that if we were to take the existing 8 buoys and reconfigure them in a much tighter pattern around to protect both the ramp and the QRC docks, you would have a configuration where you'd have buoys 50 feet apart in a tight circle, semicircle around the ramp, a good 150 feet out, which is the standard on the lake, headway speed within 150 feet of anything. And then it would be very clear to anybody coming or going to the ramp that this is a no-wake zone. There would be no question. Whereas right now, several of the buoys that are set out there are over 150 feet apart. So technically, you can slip between them legally, so to speak. I know that's a stretch, but that's what's going on. So what I'm very simply proposing is to take the existing 8 buoys, no additional expense except the labor to go out and reconfigure them, reposition them, and establish, so on the aerial view you're looking at, there's the buoys as they're currently configured. There's 3 of them across to the north of the ramp. There's 3 of them across the lake, again, from shore to shore on the south end. And then there's 1 off Brownie Beach, and there's 1 off the ramp itself. So that's a total of 8. We take that 8 and you reconfigure them 50 feet apart in a 150-foot circle. It's not really 150 feet because you got to stretch it out to cover the QRC boat docks. You end up with a much more dense pack, much more visually commanding of attention that you're in a no-wake zone, and there's no question about it. Whereas right now, I don't know if the Worcester and Shrewsbury police officers present are on the lake very much, but what we've seen is a situation where while they're chasing one wave runner, another one goes the other direction. It's almost unenforceable the way it's set up right now. So that's really it. I just think that if we reconfigured, the advantages would be, it would be more effective. It would make more sense to the average boater and therefore more complied with because they'll see it and they'll know. There's no question. You're in a no-wake zone. Right now, there's a lot of ambiguity. Plus, it would then allow a north-south through travel lane on the Worcester side, which again would leave, and we've observed this directly, there's plenty of room. You know, the distance between the Corazzini ramp and the Brownie Beach ramp is about 625, 650 feet plus or minus. There's plenty of room for 150 feet, or if you want to even stretch it out a little further to 200 feet, there's still plenty of room for a north-south corridor on the Worcester side where there'd be plenty of room for the average wake to dissipate before it gets to the ramp. Now again, if you took a wakeboard boat and did the wrong thing by going within 150 feet of the no-wake buoys, yeah, there would be a wake that makes it to the ramp. But that's illegal. They shouldn't be doing that. That is the rule, right? 150 feet within anything, particularly a no-wake buoy, you're supposed to be at headway speed, right?
150 feet without a no-wake buoy in front of a boat ramp. It's 300 feet in front of a swim area, marked or not, something that's considered a swim area, which Brownie Beach would be. And so if you add up the 150 and the 300, that's 450. So you're basically, under your measurement, although the measurement that we had was closer to 500 feet. But But say you split that in half and say it's 550 feet or 560 feet, doesn't give you much space in between to create a lane, and you'd be in the middle somewhere. Where a wakeboard boat, and I don't think it's just a wakeboard boat, I think it's any boat with a wake that's going, 14 miles an hour, which is what some people, that's what when I went down there and observed this multiple times on different days, they are slowing down a little bit. I mean, I was out filming Ask the Manager segment yesterday, and there was actually a jet ski doing donuts around the no wake buoy on the Browning Beach side. So, there's going to be people that just aren't going to obey unless it's enforced. So that's always going to happen. I think also the concept of a no wake being 6 miles an hour, when people just slow down to 14 or 13 miles an hour, the boat, and everybody, not just a wakeboard boat, everyone is responsible for the wake behind their boat, no matter what it is and what damage it does. And that's statute. So, the no wake buoy was there to kind of give guidance, because for whatever reason, just inherent in the law by the spacing of Lake Quinsigamond, and that's a challenge with Lake Quinsigamond because it is so skinny that it's hard to go any fast anywhere if you look at the letter of it. So that's the challenge we're trying to do. And there's been problems at Corazini, so that's one of the reasons we implemented it. This is certainly well done, and I think we're taking it under review, give us some time to digest it, I guess, and
May I ask a question?
sure.
My
Again, I want to turn
understanding
just
is-
again, I just don't want to turn it into a whole back and
No,
forth.
no, not at all.
Okay.
My understanding is Corazini Boat Ramp is not a swim area. In fact, it's posted no swimming, I believe.
Corazini is not.
Right.
Brownie
I'm
Beach.
sorry, I'm Brownie Beach. Is
Yeah.
posted no
I
swimming.
know. The problem with that is, it is a swim area.
But it's,
Reality speaking, it is a swim area. It's posted a lot of things that you can't, put grills there and couches and stuff, but people are doing that. Unfortunately, whether it's not supposed to be or not, it is. And if it's not enforced and the people are still out there swimming, which they are, and using it to launch jet skis and whatever else, that's what it is. So it's hard to deny it. We can't just say, well, it's not a swim area because it's got a sign there. Oak Island's not a swim area, but people swim there. They cook and they run the jet skis, and so it happens all over. But and for whatever reason, we haven't been able to seem to manage that very well, from the land.
one last comment, and I'll let it go. The Worcester Police, on 2 occasions, have parked a cruiser at Brownie Beach with the lights on, and nobody shows up. So with that level of support, Brownie Beach becomes a no swimming area. This just a comment. If it's properly
Right.
enforced,
If that could be maintained all the time, that's great.
that'd be
I'm all
great.
for it. And we can look at this and review things
Understood.
as things change.
Understood. I appreciate the commission's consideration.
Thank you. Speaking up. All right.
Going to have any further discussion, Mr. Chair, on the part of the other commissioners?
Well, we can do that, but we can't vote on this tonight.
Okay.
And back to the original thing that I thought we didn't want to open the public participation up to debate within the board. But
Okay.
it's up to you. You guys got something to say, I'm not
Well,
going
if
to
someone
stop.
wants to just make a quick comment.
That's fine.
Quick comment, I think we should open this up to some public discussion, and my opinion is let people then voice their opinion in terms of the proposal. From what I see, it looks reasonable enough. The lake is what it is in terms of its configuration. And to tighten up the current buoy locations to the proposed locations would allow for more of a flow north to south in terms of the use of the lake. And I just think it's something that's sincerely worth considering, and I think we should take in, besides Mr. Sahagian's comments, open it up to other abutters to see as to whether they feel the same way or differently in terms of what currently is there. and what the proposal is. So that would be my comments.
I just have one quick comment to add, and that's just that, the map could be edited to differentiate better between the current locations and the proposed locations, because the colors are too similar and it's hard to tell them apart.
Okay. Just to help, if I can, is that the current configuration of buoys are the buoys that basically go across the lake,
Straight across.
straight across from side to side, from the Corzini ramp over to the Worcester side of the lake. The proposed buoys are the the kind of the corner that hugs around the thing. And just also for your iteration, that the buoys were not designed, and this no wake zone is not designed specifically to cover the DRC dock. They just happen to be in the zone. What we're trying to do is slow people down coming up to the ramp. And where this becomes particularly challenging to do is, on peak times. So when everyone's unloading their boats, in the morning and then loading them back up on the ramp again in the evening, that's when, things get dangerous. We had a person we've had a few people get injured and fall out of boats there, and someone almost drowned last year. So there's been issues. And basically, if you're there and see this, you'll understand that, this boats are just rocking around all the time right there. So.
Is this more frequent on weekends than weekdays, or does it kind of?
Well, yeah, by inherently, that's what it would be. But, you got to go back to how do you manage this and how do you enforce it? So do we, have different times, and, it confuses law enforcement, it confuses they think they're confused now. Say, okay, you can go through this at, on a weekday between, 8 and 4, but it has to be no wake after that. So unless we came up with some elaborate light system to kind of signal that, which people would have to be able to understand,
How about, don't let them on the lake unless they understand the light system? Joke.
It's a joke, but it's a good comment, because education is one of the main things we got to do. I mean, the whole problem we're having with this stuff is a behavioral issue.
It is.
It's not the type of vehicle or the vessel that you got out in the lake. It's not anything but people's behavior. And typically people's behavior is because they don't know any better.
Well, I think, just based on my observation, being on the commission for a few years, you've got a lot of people on the lake who are coming to the lake who do not understand piloting. And,
Probably most of them.
It argues for licensing.
Yep.
You can't have your boat on the lake unless you produce a license.
Well, New Hampshire does it, Connecticut does it. I think it's a good idea. I'm behind that 100%. But I'm going to also reiterate, and I think Sergeant Vitos had brought this up at the last meeting. It's not just non-residents coming in from the Corzini ramp.
You think it's residents around the lake, too?
Absolutely. Water skiers do it every day. So that type of thing. So,
That's outreach.
we have, we have issues, isn't it just with, one particular cohort of people?
Yeah,
So-
that requires outreach, and that requires persistence in outreach and getting, public agreement for the residents of the lake. Consensus.
Yeah, well, consensus is we're not asking them whether they think they should obey the law.
We're telling them.
The consensus is, this is the rule, and these aren't just Lake Quinsigamond Commission rules. In fact, we don't have, the swimming area rule, all that stuff isn't from the Lake Commission, it's from the state.
Massachusetts state law.
It's Massachusetts state law, right, Chapter 90B. So that's what, that's where it goes. Yes, Mr. Pike.
Another concern I would have, Mr. Chair, is what's the standard in terms of the state, in terms of such buoys around launching areas? If we're expanding it much larger than what is the usual standard, then, are we being more so restrictive relative to the structure of the lake as it is? And again, I would just make a proposal that we allow for some more public input other than one representative speaking tonight, to see if in fact how the other residential abutters or people that use the lake at this end of the lake feel about this, so that we could take their feelings into concern. So that's my proposal, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, since everyone else is making a comment, I'd like to make a couple of comments.
I'm sorry, Bill, no comments. Go ahead.
Yeah. Of course, this is for the Corzini boat ramp and not for the boat club. But since the boat club is right next door to it, and, you know, I'm there for a couple of hours every morning of the week, all through the summer, spring and fall, interact with a lot of other boat club members, and I've got overwhelming response from them as well as personal observation myself. The existing buoys do slow down the vast majority, not every one, of the boats that go through. And the reason I'm saying that is just a preliminary to support what you, Peter, said earlier. The wakes that come in and affect the Corzini boat ramp, also when they're fairly high, splash over the Quinsigamond Rowing Club boat dock as well. We're next door to them. And we all observe when standing on that dock and the waves are splashing over it that most of those boats are halfway across the lake. It's not one of these things where it's 50 feet or 100 feet, but they can be 200, 300 feet out the middle of the lake, and those waves still come in, hit the Corzini boat ramp, hit the Quinsigamond Rowing Club docks, and they go up and down and slosh the boats around. So as tight as this is drawn, I really think from observation that we have to consider, you know, how far wakes actually travel, as you were saying. Not just having a boat slow down within 50 feet of that. And my second observation is just the way these new buoy locations are located. One of them is closer to the end of one dock and the other one almost as close, longer than an 8. And where they're suggesting to be positioned in front of the Quinsigamond Rowing Club literally is going to interfere with 8s going in and out of both the launching dock and the landing dock. So there has to be a little more thought considering all of the neighbors' use of that part of the lake in terms of where the buoys are placed.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's, because I want to move on. So let's, bring this up. We can either schedule a hearing for next month. Madam
I thought
Secretary.
when you created this rule, you said you were gonna discuss it at the end of the season.
Okay,
So, I mean, that's what,
okay, so that'll be the,
October meeting? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you.
shoot it for the October meeting?
That's kind of when you
Okay,
installed them. That's
all right,
my recollection of it.
okay. Will that work for everyone?
So we're going to have a public hearing discussion on
Do
this.
you want to have a public hearing about it?
I would propose it. So for those interested parties, let them so show. If they don't come to speak and address it, so be it. But at least the commission then can take into regard public sentiment in terms of the proposal. We go from there in terms of a discussion, a decision, and a vote on the part of the commission.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if you're going to do the public hearing then, and you want to solicit some public comment, is there going to be a means of kind of advertising that to people who are lake residents?
If it's a hearing, we have to advertise it, yeah.
So, through the Lake Quinsigamond Association kind of talking
We,
about it, or-
we've taken that out in the paper,
Yeah, this isn't the
Correct.
first time we've done this, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a appropriate question for you, Mike, but when they do a traffic assessment, I'm not sure who does that. Does law enforcement do that, or is it come from
We're
the
part
town?
of it, but it's also integrated with the town, the highway department. There's
The
a
highway
lot-
department,
there's a lot of entities involved.
does it come out of the selectmen's side of things, and they say, okay, we're gonna put say they wanna put a stoplight,
Yep,
and it's a town road, it's not a state road.
yeah, it's,
Even if it's a state road, I guess,
it's actually, we don't really do those. That's done through the highway department.
DOT? Oh, no, so any
It's
highway.
done through the town, yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of people involved in it, it's very involved. There's a lot
Okay.
of data that needs to be collected on it.
What about public input?
I think it plays a role in the initial start of the actual traffic study, but it does not
It's
determine.
required by law that the public has to participate in any traffic studies.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll schedule this for the October meeting, just so we don't leave, I'm concerned if we leave it for November and something happens in November, we don't have a meeting.
Yeah, no, I think do it in
October?
October when
Okay,
it's
all right,
current.
all right.
So let it be known for those people who are so concerned, that night we would thus, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, so have a public hearing, discussion, commission discussion, hopefully a decision on our part at that time.
All right, did someone write that down? Okay, good.
Does that count?
Thank you.
All right, awesome, thank you. All right, so, out to the commissioners' reports. The only thing I'm gonna bring up in my report is that, there was a meeting, in the city on Monday night regarding, a formal and permanent ban of jet skis on Indian Lake. And, my understanding of the gist of the meeting was there was participation from a couple of city councilors in there, three, I guess. And there was a major, I believe, from the environmental police. I'm not sure, did Worcester PD have someone?
We didn't participate, no.
And some residents. And, you know, what they would like to do, if they had, if the residents had their way, they would ban jet skis for all non-residential people. So only people who had, you know, who lived on the lake, or I guess in the neighborhood, somewhere around the lake, that they could put in jet skis, but, you know, people coming from anywhere else could not do that. My understanding is that the major, during this part of it, you know, this is in conflict with state law. This is in conflict with, you know, if you're Great Pond, which Indian Lake is, and you're over 75 acres or over, which Indian Lake also is, correct? Then you can't ban jet skis. So, not sure where they're gonna go with it. I'm not sure. They're supposed to get sign off from the environmental police, which I don't believe they have to date from the last time they banned them in the last year. I don't think they actually signed off on it, but that's where it's going. But interestingly, the major did point out that when they did this, they would impact Lake Quinsigamond. So that's something to bear in mind. It's something that, you know, that's coming to us. I personally do not believe that banning any type of vessel is going to be effective. You know, because they'd have to throw a wide net out there. So it's, you know, it's just they do jet skis at one point, and, you know, what else next? And I said this before in a meeting, that I remember back when they tried to ban jet skis on Lake Quinsigamond, and we had this big meeting because we couldn't fit all in this little conference room we had down here, so we had to have it in the Worcester Public Library. And sure enough, someone stood up in that meeting and said, why don't we ban all power boats? So this is the slippery slope that you do when you try to do that. That said, okay, you know, that puts us in a very bad position here on the lake, because whereas there were some comments that, boy, the lake has been, you know, the Indian Lake has been really peaceful this year, and the nature's come back, and, you know, it's really nice, and the birds are chirping, and the sun's out, and all this. That has not been our experience on Lake Quinsigamond. So, you know, both in the north and south ends in particular, at Oak Island and Browning Beach, we have a high concentration of jet skis in packs. And they've been all over the lake, and, you know, it's really a behavioral issue versus a vessel issue, I think. And, you know, I can speak for the people, at least on Oak Island, that these people seem to have means. If you've seen the rigs that pull these jet skis to the thing, you know, most of these aren't the stolen ones over there, and I don't believe. Although most of the time the truck has a mass plate on it, and the jet ski has some kind of out-of-state plate on it, or vice versa. So I know that that's going on, but I don't see how it's going to affect it. I was at a friend of mine's property, which is right across from an island where they've been hanging out at Twin Island. And I witnessed a jet boat, which has the same kind of handling characteristics as a jet ski. It can basically turn around at 360 degrees in its own length, just sitting there spinning. Same thing. It goes up in the air. It goes over to the side. It has the same characteristics and the same things you can do with the jet ski you can do with that. That would be a boat. So if they're going to behave the same way in a boat, which is bigger and has more people in it, and they can actually tow something with that thing, and they can't tow it with a jet ski, so legally. So for those reasons, I don't think it's going to be an effective thing. But what do we do? I guess is going to be the question moving forward when this takes effect over there, or if this takes effect, and do we approach the environmental police and go for the same thing? Don't want to do that. Don't want to ban jet skis. I think there are a lot of responsible jet ski owners out there, and a lot of people who ride them are responsible. But if you're gonna take and shift the problem from one neighborhood to another in the same city, and basically the argument in Indian Lake is, well, we can't afford to patrol Indian Lake, and you can't afford to patrol Quinsigamond either. We have the state police here. We have Shrewsbury's been doing a good job. Worcester's been out here as much as possible, and everybody's trying to do the right thing. And like you said, it's knowledge. It should be training. They should have some kind of certificate or formal training to go through. I'd be happy with, online teaching, whatever it takes. But I don't want the problem to shift from there to here. So
Well,
that's,
again, I'd like to push for, formal licensing. You want to drive a car, you have to have a license.
there's actually legislation in front of, making its way, as all legislation does, slowly through the State House. They've tried a couple of iterations of it. I know that one time that the industry reared up, and they actually, because they wanted everyone under a certain age, everyone at any age, to have some kind of certificate to operate. It's not just kids. Matter of fact, the kids aren't even our main concern on this. It's adult operators that we're having a problem with. In New Hampshire, everyone that drives a boat with a motor has to have a certificate. Same thing in Connecticut. So, and that's probably how it should be here. But that's going to be a long time coming. We put a bill in here a few years ago that, no one really cared about in the State House, and it took 2.5 years to get it through, because we had to go through House Counsel and this committee and that committee to make sure we weren't conflicting with any other law and changing any other stuff, and so it takes a while, but I agree. So, certainly feel free to advocate for that. If we can discuss formally advocating it for as a commission and say, we support any kind of legislation. For next meeting, I'll have that legislation in front of us so we can kind of review it, make sure that's what it was. I was talking about the earlier legislation. They actually, the jet ski industry got jet skis exempted from it. So it was the, it was
exempt motorcycles from
exactly. So it was
legislation on
kind
the
of like,
road.
okay, why would you do that? And their mentality was that, well, you can't drive a jet ski till you're over 16 anyway. So that solved the problem for us. And again, it's the under 16 people, and even the 16-year-olds. I'm really not afraid. Those guys aren't the ones that I see out there doing crazy stuff. There's 30-year-olds and adults. 40, 50-year-old people out there just riding around doing crazy stuff. So, and I don't know, Michael, what your experience has been out there.
It's been interesting this year.
Yeah.
So
So
we have a lot of, I'll go over to my report.
okay. So that's as far as I'm going to take that, I guess. But that's my one report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
question/comment on this?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about any of the, what should be the rules for jet skis or not, but my question is more on our participation. Since both Indian Lake and Lake Quinsigamond are partially, for Lake Quinsigamond, in the city of Worcester.
Yeah.
Are we involved in any way with these people who are discussing what to do on Indian Lake? Because it's clearly the jet skiers can use both lakes, and so what things are decided and should have all participants from both lakes involved in these discussions.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I think the next step in this is going to go to city council. So I think at that stage, we'll probably participate in that. I meant to go in there and participate on Monday, but that didn't work, because I thought the meeting was at 6, it was at 5. So that didn't work out. But, my plan is when it goes to city council, that we'll attend that meeting. And we can send out notice to all the commission members if you would also like to attend and speak your,
It sounds like what you're alluding to is perhaps Worcester City regulations governing jet ski use anywhere within city bounds.
Rather than on this particular lake and not that particular lake. It would be makes more sense to, as you said, everywhere.
Yeah, I will say this, that the state pushed back pretty aggressively, and it had to be all jet skis. They couldn't just do a non-resident thing. So I think that's how the council members voted to move it forward.
It was a 2-1 vote. I don't know how it.
I know it's a 2-1,
yeah.
but I think that's what they did.
Yeah, and they referred to city council, I know the difference is Morgan Park is a city park. That ramp is city-owned, it's not state-owned. That's a city park.
Oh, I thought there was a DCR ramp.
No, that's a city of Worcester ramp.
Okay.
So
They can do what they want. It's a
correct,
city ramp.
correct.
Right.
So like Corzini's a state ramp.
Right.
Morgan Park is
Yep.
is a city-owned ramp.
Okay. So
I think that's how they enforce it in Webster by limiting
that's correct.
jet
Memorial
skis.
Beach is a
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a city-owned. It's a Webster-owned.
Right.
They can regulate how many jet skis they want on the lake.
Yeah.
The funny part of Webster.
Lake.
Yes, Webster Lake.
Yeah, the funny part of Webster Lake is that there's a state ramp on the Webster Lake that no one seems to know.
No, I've seen it empty all day long. No one seems to know about it.
Seriously, the serious thing. So, it's much nicer than Oak Island. So go to Webster. So, that would make a difference. But that still doesn't allow them to ban the jet ski on the lake. It just allows them. The city can control.
They could regulate if they wanted to.
Yeah, well, the city can control who goes in the boat ramp. Because the town of Webster can't regulate the lake, they can only regulate the boat ramp.
Correct.
So they can say, okay, no jet skis go through the boat ramp. But that's not what they're asking for, which is interesting. They're not asking this, because that seems that's a no.
Yeah. I think Webster. I think they allow a certain amount of non-residents to come through, and then they cap it at like 20 or something like that.
Right.
Something like
The
that.
jet skis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something.
I thought it was
It's
no.
an astronomical fee. They charge like $50 too to
Yeah, that's
park
the
in
other
or
good
something
thing.
like that.
That's the other good thing about running your own ramp. Yeah. We can't get away with that yet. We keep inching it up. Angela told me at one point that the state had told us we were the highest state ramp fee.
How far back in time?
No, like we're the highest right now.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody in the state, that's what they told us, yeah. So,
Doesn't seem to be curbing things.
no, well, we're not necessarily doing it to curb things. That's exactly why they don't want you to raise the fee, because you're limiting access. So they're very sensitive to that. They don't want to limit access. They don't want to limit access to one particular class, to a group of people. So they're very concerned about that part of it. That's the pushback we get.
It
Yes?
just makes me say all the more that we really need to go to licensing, and that there really needs to be, in order to get that license, you have to agree that these are
Right.
the behavioral rules.
It would seem that would help law enforcement as well. Like if there was a license thing and you ran across someone who didn't have a license, that's an easy.
100%, yeah.
That's an easy fix, right?
Yeah. I mean, I rented a boat up at Winnipesaukee this summer, and I had to show my license to rent it.
Yeah.
So I had to show my boat license.
Yeah.
I had to show my boating.
You're not your New Hampshire boat license?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took the Massachusetts one. You can use it. The Massachusetts one, New Hampshire. They let me use it through the police. We have one. I have
Oh,
one.
you have a pole?
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the environmental, went to the class and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. I know, because I took the course in New Hampshire. It's online.
Yeah.
Easy to do. It is informative. gives you all the, kind of the rules of the road and what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, but the first thing when I showed up, I had to show the
Yeah, yeah.
boating certificate
Oh, yeah.
that I was able to drive a boat.
Yeah. My brother-in-law got stopped without one. It's a $100 fine. Plus, he had to pay another $100 to go to the class. So that's, you guys all have those. Well, actually, it's a Lake in Maine or part of it's in
New Hampshire, I have to say that the residents of New Hampshire behave a lot differently than they do down here.
Yeah, yeah,
They're much more safety conscious.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that's just a state thing or,
Well, it's because they have a license and they had to
I mean,
take all
that
that.
could
So
be a
now they
lot of
can't
it,
say they
but-
didn't, no.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there sneaking in without the,
I'm sure of it, but
yeah,
my experience on the lakes up in New Hampshire and Maine to here are much different.
yeah. All right. So,
Other commissioner reports, Mr. Chair?
you're up.
Mr. Chair, let me just say, and I'll try to keep my comments succinct and to the point. Things called jet skis. Everybody knows what those are. The operation of them is not for the person who operates it, one to just go from A to B. All right? They're made to want to turn. That's probably a significant part of the enjoyment, use of a jet ski. I have some concerns that it's not a matter of stealing thunder, as was my thought as well, that the lake, the configuration of the lake is so big, and at a certain point, it just seems to me that the lake might be getting saturated with jet skis, especially the way they're normally used, which is go here, go there, go in circles, do donuts. And that, sincerely, we may have to consider literally having a clicker at the Corazini and the Route 20 ramp, when if 50 jet skis, I'm not saying that's the number, come in today, that's it. That's enough jet skis allowed on the lake today. It's only an issue on Saturday and Sundays. It's not an issue Monday through Friday. It just isn't. I live on a lake. I observe this all the time. So that may be something this commission has to consider. That is limiting the numbers because of the saturation and the consequent safety issues that I believe are starting to develop from a saturation of boating on the lake on Saturdays and Sundays. It's my observation. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving on. The juvenile eagles are still hanging around the adult nest. I see them flying around. Moving along. I wasn't able to be at the MCL update on the Lake Ave sewer treatment plant restoration, improvement, whatever that is. I'd like hopefully hear a little on that tonight. But also, I know that it's a sub-pumping station on Bridal Path in Worcester that they've been working on for months, and I'd like to know a little bit more about that. If anybody here tonight, if Jacqueline, you might know something about that, you can update us a little on that as to what's going on there. Moving on, the weeds are growing, the grass is coming up, it's maturing, it's floating to the surface, it's going to be all around. I guess there's been a report that, some jet skis have got caught up in their system of their little, watercraft there, and, it's an issue. We're trying to, I know that somebody sent us some correspondence on Lakeside, is it Lakeside in Shrewsbury?
Lakeside Drive.
Lakeside Drive, a chronically weeded area. Gee, might we do something about it? That area's been treated in the past. Weeds are going to grow back. We have so many resources, so much money to do so much in terms of weed treatment. I can empathize with his concern that you can't even kind of get out of his property through all the weeds without, clogging up his boat, whatever that might be. And I don't know what he has. Igor has. That's the fellow's first name. But, these are issues that we're always dealing with, and we acknowledge them, and it's not easy. Pretty much, Mr. Chair, that's all I have to say at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Perfect. Sergeant Vitos.
Mr. Chair, mine will be pretty short tonight. Just want to give you an update on some of the things we've been doing. Unfortunately, I don't have any lake stats as of right now. I'm gonna draft up a end of the season kind of statistical analysis of all the stuff we've done on the lake and all their numbers for calls of service and all that, so everyone can get an idea of the amount of work we've done. What we've done this week, and we are going to continue doing probably till the end of the season, we've still been getting a lot of complaints about water skiers with no spotters on the lake. So what we ended up doing is doing a couple of randomized patrols in the early morning hours to try to combat this issue, and it seems like it's been fairly effective. The couple of water skiers that we have, or water skier and boats that we have stopped, one in particular, the officer stated that he did not see a spotter on the boat. However, when he ended up stopping the boat, the spotter was kind of curled up in a awkward position where the hull of the boat was actually shielding them. So the good news is there was a spotter on the boat, but from land you could not see that. So just something to be aware of. Drake Island, we've noticed an increase in activity as far as people going on the actual island itself or getting too close to the island. That continues to be an issue. We're trying to educate people that they're not allowed on there. I mean, there are signs posted, but, you know, when we're not around, inevitably people try to go up there and do their thing. So we'd ask that everyone just stay off Drake Island. We got the eagles up there and, you know, and protected, so we're trying to keep people off of it.
And post.
And it's posted. So that's that. And then it's just to make a comment about the jet ski issue. What we find with the majority of the jet skis we stop, it's not the person's jet ski, it's their friend, cousin, brother, whatever it may be. And a lot of times they don't know anything about boating. So going back to your point, Amanda, it's an educational issue. It's a huge issue. I think if we had something in place where there was a little bit of formal education, hey, this is what you can and cannot do, it may go a long way. You know, as far as the buoy setup goes, it's been working on our end better than previous seasons. You know, and the reality is no matter where you put the buoys, people are going to do what they're going to do, and the people that are going to listen are going to listen, the people that aren't going to listen aren't going to listen. So, you know, it's going to come down to just more enforcement and more education on it is my 2 cents. So with that said, that's really all I have. That's all I have.
So, when you guys were out there in the morning, did you observe, you know, the traffic coming through Kings Point, the narrows of Kings Point?
I could ask the officers that were on the lake. I didn't get any reports about any traffic coming through Kings Point, but I can certainly ask.
Yeah.
But you know, we are going to be doing that. I'm not going to disclose when, but we will be doing that in the early morning hours, and hopefully it at least makes people aware that hey, we're out there. We're going to be looking for it, and we're doing the best we can.
Yep. I've actually heard from a couple of people that you made your presence known in the morning. So thank you for that. All right. So people are taking notice of it. That's good.
Excellent. That's what we're looking for.
Yep.
Good.
We just want people to be safe. That's all we're looking for.
Yep. Thank you. Perfect. Sergeant Garrimon.
Well, this year we've actually been able to put out the boat 3 to 4 days a week. It's mostly Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays and Saturdays we put the boat out, and that is, as much as people want to hear, it's because we haven't had to go to Indian Lake. So
That's good.
usually it's 2 and 2, but every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday and Saturday we've had the boat out. We have one officer who wants to do it, so it's been good this year for us. We dealt with we dealt with our first accident of the year over by the Marine Corps League. But that was solved between both parties after we responded. We had 3 tows, 6 citations, 11 warnings, and we've been dealing with loud music over at Lake Park on Saturdays. The patrol car's been tied up, so I've been having the guys go over with the boat and dock the boat and go address the issue when they can. The pump station, we've been there on the holidays and only the holidays because that's when we find out it's the busiest 4th of July, Memorial Day weekend. We'll be there this Labor Day weekend. I wish I could commit full manpower on every weekend, but unfortunately,
Browning Beach?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
we call it
yeah.
pump
Yeah,
station.
yeah, yeah. That's, it is a pump station.
Yeah. But I've been authorized again by the captain to put guys there on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of Labor Day weekend
On the land side.
on the land side. Yeah. So I put 2 guys there. We've been there every major holiday, and it's been very effective.
Yeah.
I felt I'd be shocked if Shoes. I'd say Shrewsbury got the call because no one lives around there, but
Right.
if Shrewsbury residents called during those times, I think we learned from Memorial Day weekend that we got to stay later. We left at like 3 o'clock on Memorial Day weekend now, and then 4th of July we stayed till 7, 8 o'clock, and we'll do the same this weekend.
All right.
Because they see us gone, they show up at 3:30. They actually beat us there one morning, but we were able to clear them out. They were from East Boston, Chelsea, Lynn, but we actually cleared them out, and the state police got to see that jet skis don't like to stop, and they took off from the state police toward under the Boylston Bridge, which I thought was quite strange, going that way.
Yeah, you're not going to get far over there.
Yeah, well, they did go over there. 3 jet skis took off on the state police boat that way.
What did they,
I was off that dude. I just got the phone call from one of my guys that state police tried stopping jet skis, and they went towards Boylston. So where that ends up, I have no idea where that ends up.
it's not going to be good, well, unless they get off and run, that's not much, the sand
Stuck in
pit.
the weeds.
But yeah, this has been
Purple
this has been the most we've been on the water. The Worcester boat's been on the water since the past few years, and we actually have a bid out for a brand new boat. They gave us $100,000 to get a brand new boat, and the bid is be going out in the next month to get a brand new boat.
I heard that rumor, so that's.
That is true.
That's-
Fire department's getting one, and we're getting one, and it's budgeted for $100,000. So we wanted a brig, but unfortunately, what's going on in Ukraine, we can't get a brig. We have to find something else.
Yeah. So, are they going to put a new boathouse up, or?
That's got to be.
I know they've been talking, they've been threatening that.
That's
Yeah.
that's for for the next capital budget. I'm sure the
Yeah.
police department, and fire department will ask because actually we have nowhere to put these boats, and it's going to be a 22-footer. So
Right. Will that be able to get under the Stringer Dam?
I am not sure, to be honest with you.
Is it going to be a hard top?
It's going to be center console with a canvas over the top. We went and saw the Webster boat. We're trying to base
Yeah,
it off.
Webster boats, that
Yes.
could probably get under there.
We're trying to base it off the Webster boat with the tube side and center
Yeah,
console,
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, with 154 horsepower engine.
I mean, it's the way the boats are configured now. I mean, the actual safety boat could get under there.
The public safety boat can get under there. When we get the email about the bacteria in the water, I tell my guys not to go over. When the lake was shut down, like for twice this summer, I told the guys not to go over.
Right.
They've done it. It's a pain drop in the top, but they've been instructed to go over there. We have been over there, and people have
Right.
seen us over there.
Oh, no,
you know?
there's definitely been noticed. So it's effective when it's over there. And I know
Yeah.
that a couple of weeks ago, I saw an EPO over there in a jet ski. And the funny part about that was that I was out on my paddleboard, but we came around, and this woman in a kayak, she goes, "You have your vests?" And we said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, you better, because I just got stopped by the EPO. They asked me, I was in my kayak and asked me if I had my vest." I'm watching a jet ski go whizzing by me at like 60 miles an hour. Because I was worried about the kayak and the vest. So that's good. But I think it's important, my 2 cents worth, that we have some kind of way to get over to that part of the lake. I'm going to respectfully disagree with Mr. Piker here, as it's only weekends that jet skis are over there. Oak Island has jet skis on it every single night. And they're out, they arrive at, it's like clockwork. They get there after work, and, they stay till dusk, and some of them until a little bit after that. And, they're out there buzzing around and doing their thing.
And the last thing, and speaking to I know it's for a different discussion of the time, but my guys that have been out there, the wake zone's been beneficial down by Corazini because it allows us to enforce, because they like to dock the jet skis
Yep.
there, so it's been quite beneficial for my guys to enforce that over there, because they want to go over there and do the donuts in that wake zone, and because they have people on the beach, and
Right.
it's actually resolved the problem when we're on the water. I'm not saying we're not in the water; it's not happening, but we're on the water. It's been pretty good.
All right. Great, thank you, thanks for stepping up.
Mr. Chair, could I comment on something? Let me just say this, that a number of people have said to me, approached me, that loud use of music from boats where you can hear it 300 or 400 feet away is a public annoyance, disturbance, and we've had people here say, things like it affects the quality of life. It really does. It's one thing if somebody has a radio on their boat and they're listening to music, but when you can hear it 300 or 400 feet away, clearly, all right, you're getting disrespectful to others. There's not supposed to be loud political harangues on the lake. It's one of our rules. But when the music is so loud that you can hear it that far away, it really kind of impinges on, interferes, impacts the general public's appreciation and use of the lake. And that new normal is not acceptable to me, and I know it's not acceptable to a lot of other people who have to put up with it, and it shouldn't become chronic. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know you
Chair,
gave a
can I
citation
comment on that?
for some people using, music at Lake Park, and you had to issue a citation. I'm glad to hear that, but it comes from the boats, not just the land, too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I want to question law enforcement. I know there are decibel levels for construction equipment, lawnmowers, et cetera, et cetera. Do those only apply to particular things like a lawnmower or construction equipment, or do those decibel levels apply to any source that is making the loud noise?
I know we have a city ordinance for motorcycles in the Western car. It's like 50 decibels or something like that. But regarding like a 90B chapter, I don't think there is a decibel. I'm not positive, to be honest. I can't comment on it, but I don't think there is. Like we have for motor vehicles, we have chapter 9016 we can use for loud music in a motor vehicle. But for a boat, I'm not actually positive, to be honest with you.
All right, so unless there's some kind of ordinance about noise in general, there's
Well, the
just,
one we have now is for APM, right? Is the one,
yeah, but,
application of any type of.
and, there's been a lot of scanner activity from you guys after dark. I think you've actually beat America's Got Talent on Sunday nights for ratings.
Yeah.
So, but you guys will go over there, you'll tell someone to turn down the music, and you'll drive away, and immediately they'll turn the music back up, and the person calls again and we just saw them go over there, they turned the music down, they drove away, and they turned it back up again. And you can hear it over the scanner, and who's ever on the boat's going, yeah, I know. They go back down around again, so it's crazy. Also, I think, at least on the city side, it's not just a Lake Quinsigamond, Lake Park problem, it's a city problem. We were out Sunday night a couple of weeks ago, and I drove by down Lake Ave. We were going to Green Hill Park to the restaurant up there, and we went by Lake Park, booming, and they were up by the street too. They were up in that little wooded area, and we drove past those guys, went up, and we went up Manny.
Away, yeah.
Yeah, and we went by that park. There's like a ball field up there.
Yeah.
Same thing. Going up there, I'm going, I guess it's not just Lake Park. So, it's been an issue all over the place. Great stereos.
The noise on the lake travels,
Yeah.
Lake Park, we can hear clear as day on South Quinsigamond, and
Oh, yeah.
it's and you
I can
can't
hear it
really
at my house.
decipher what direction
On
it's coming
Flint
from or
Pond.
who it's coming from
Yeah.
a lot of times, so
Yeah.
it's like an echo chamber on the lake.
They're incredibly clear performing, some of them are. But I was, to Mike's point on the boats, I had a jet ski go by my house, and he lit up the entire Flint Pond with that stereo he has in his jet ski.
Yep.
So, it's crazy. I don't know.
When you're out in the lake in the morning and it's quiet, you can hear people talking in the shores, even if you're 300 or 400 feet away.
Right. Okay, it
Just sound travels.
does. Depends on which way the wind's blowing, I guess. Okay.
I'll make sure our 300-watt radio on our new police boat is nice and quiet then.
It'd probably be popular if they heard you say over there, pull over.
If I can just, because I don't want to belabor this point till, drag the horse in the room, beat it to death, drag it out of the room, bring it back into the room and beat it to death a second
Okay,
time.
so you beat it, that's 3 times you beat the horse.
Yeah. Warning first, ticket second. If you know, and maybe the officer has said, look, I'm giving you a warning right now. If I come back again tonight, you're getting a ticket. And, you know, if they sting a little like that, maybe they'll get the point, you know? And they maybe need to be told, you know, residential abutters are complaining about it. When I drive away, if you tune it up again and people complain again, we're gonna have to take that as you're doing it and you're playing cat and mouse with us. You've been so told, so warned. Next time I'm back, it's a ticket. So that's just my thought, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I like the idea of jail time.
Okay, so can you deputize, you know, some lake commissioners and let them have Abbott out there? All right,
There's a precedent on Winnipesaukee, by the way.
Next commissioner?
oh, for noise?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I think we have to kind of go and study and find out what's the best thing. But thank you. Mr. Polito's not here. Betsy?
No report from
Reports?
Grafton.
Okay.
I don't have a report
Amanda?
either.
You've said enough. Bacon's not here right now.
Thanks.
Mr. Nelson, last but not least.
Okay, I guess 3 points. I hate to reiterate something that's been mentioned several times, but
Is this the same horse?
yeah,
Okay.
the safety buoys, the no-wake buoys in front of the Corozini boat ramp, really, and this, I have to say this because I've been asked, greatly appreciated by the rowers at the Quinsigamond Rowing Club. They really noticed the vast majority of boats slow down to an extent that the wakes aren't crashing over the top of the dock along the outer edge and smashing all of the shells against the dock. So they really are saying it's a big improvement over the previous years. A vast majority of people do slow down, and the wakes just aren't there as much as they were. Again, something I had mentioned a couple other times previously, second point, I in the morning, like others at the rowing club, are still passed closely by water skiers. I went through the Narrows and I had a water ski boat go right by me through there with the skier behind it going back and forth, almost touching each shore. Luckily, you're smart enough to go to the other shore from the one I was next to. They don't slow down, and I've been watching for the last several weeks. I noticed they don't slow down when they go under the Burns Bridge. The water skier is still slamming back and forth behind the boat as it goes under the Burns Bridge, and there's 2 no-wake buoys there. And to mention previously, of course, I don't have a camera out there. It's hard enough to keep a scull, you know, from tipping over in a wake to be taking a video of the boat. But most of the boats I haven't seen with spotters. Maybe they're lying down taking a nap, so you can't see them from the shore. But I haven't seen spotters on the boats, and we all know that's illegal. And finally, just a sort of a question. My own personal conclusion is that a lot of these people are going too fast in jet skis. The reason they're on the jet ski is they like to go fast, and that's the reason why. And so I'm wondering, as in this state, it's illegal to try to deny jet skis on a particular body of water, any body of water that's a great pond. Is there any sort of laws, Mr. Chair, concerning speed limits? Is it possible to set a separate speed limit for jet skis due to the nature of a particular pond, that it is sufficiently low that at least the people who have bought a jet ski or rented one who, because they want to go fast, will go some other place where they can go fast?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong, but I don't believe, again, that would be an incredibly difficult thing to follow through to court if they had to get a ticket, because the judge is going to go, well, you know.
Well, if there was a law in effect saying
Our
maximum
speed limit on Lake
was X.
Quinsigamond, our top speed limit on Lake Quinsigamond is actually 5 miles an hour slower than the state.
Okay.
So we did do that, we can do that, but that's for everybody. You know, and again, I've seen go-fast boats going upwards of 60, 70 miles an hour on Lake Quinsigamond, you know, not just jet skis. So it you know, it happens. As a matter of fact, as it gets cooler, you'll see them in the morning too, because they like to run, they run fast or cool. So, you know, it all happens. So it's you know, it's a dangerous thing, and we're back to the education point of it, that they have to do it. And, you know, if that's what it takes, it's you know, they have to maybe get some consequence for breaking the law. It's really concerning to me to hear that their skiers are going underneath the Burns Bridge. First of all, it really concerns me that they're passing anyone in the Narrows. You know, this is the exact area where a water skier ran over a sculler, you know, and killed them. So to keep,
I've been passed less than 30 feet by,
yeah, well, there's no way you couldn't be more than 30 feet, because it's only 187 feet wide. Sorry, Mike, do you have?
I just had a quick question for Bill. What time about is this occurring?
essentially, I'm out there from 7 to 8 in the morning. Some mornings a little earlier, but basically most of the time it's 7 to 8.
And this is any day throughout the
Monday,
week?
Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Okay. All right. Take it, well, duly noted.
Okay.
All right, perfect. Anything else, Bill?
No,
All right,
thank you.
okay. Okay, so, review and act on new dock permits. We have any new dock permits?
No.
No? Okay, discuss and possibly act on safety buoys on Lake Quinsigamond and Flint Pond. The two buoys on Route 20, you know, north and south of the Route 20 bridge there in the Flint Pond, are gone. They've been sabotaged, stabbed. If you guys notice anybody with ice picks hanging around in the lake out there, let me know.
Did one of them have a red beacon on it by chance?
I don't think we had beacons on those sites.
One
did
of
we?
them had like a reddish.
No, I
beacon.
don't, do we have beacons on those buoys out there? Are
One,
you totally missing a buoy?
one washed ashore, I'm not sure where, but we have it at the boathouse. We're just trying to figure out where it went, where it goes.
I don't think that was ours. I mean, that'd be a trick if it got through under the Stringer Dam against the current.
So if anybody knows.
Not to say it couldn't happen. Okay, we'll keep an eye out. I think both ours are accounted for. Did you lose a buoy?
What was it?
We lost the top of the buoy, like the piece that fits over the top, and it had the attachment of a red light on it.
But not the whole buoy?
But not
We have an entire buoy with the actual light on it.
Could the buoy actually grow from the cap?
like basically,
Invasive buoys now.
There was a buoy against Blake Island a couple weeks ago.
That buoy, which was supposed to be on the north end of Drake, there's a low spot, and that buoy got away from wherever it was stationed.
Okay.
So, and then they put it back, but not where it's supposed to be, correct?
Back where it's supposed to be.
So it's in the correct spot now?
Northern point, yeah.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking, the other buoys I want to add on is at Kings Point. You know, we kept going back and forth in the signs, and, you know, if you go by and look at the wall at Salem's property there, you know, it's stone, it's old, they're not even, I don't think the signs are gonna be effective there. So what I'd like to propose is go back and install, not this season, we'll do that, but I want to get prepared for that next season, so get it done. We approved this 2 seasons ago to make that no wake. And just for everyone's iteration out there, again, inherently, Kings Point, the narrows at Kings Point are no wake, even without signs. It's 187 feet wide. There's a swimming area on the Shrewsbury side, because that's literally that dock that's sitting there, it's a swim dock. And Lake Park is on the other side. So it's blatantly, you know, not wide enough to go through there at full speed. It's certainly not pulling a skier. And certainly not pulling a skier when there's another boat in there. So there's just no room for it, and it's dangerous. And there's been a fatality there. So and someone said, well, that was 50 years ago, but I don't know how many times you have to learn the same lesson, even if it's 50 years apart. So, and there was a horrendous accident that when it did happen. So, but I'd like to put a buoy to the north and to the south of Kings Point, basically in the center of it, you know, east-west. so that we can slow the traffic down and have that go through there, right. That may impede, especially at 8, going through the thing. They're gonna have to be careful, because there's gonna be a buoy there. They're gonna be a little bit outside of the channel, because I want people to have a warning, so they're not slowing down the channel, because that's not gonna really do us any good. But, so it'll be, maybe 25, 30 feet out. Kind of the same looking thing as the Burns Bridge, maybe a little tighter than that. But that's there. So we got 2 there, the 2 at Route 20, and you lost one at Corzini, correct? Or was that repaired?
We replaced it.
You already replaced it?
Yes.
Okay, so any other buoys that you need, I guess we take an inventory so we know.
Yep, we actually, I
What we
think
need.
we have a couple extra. I have to look at our inventory.
Okay,
But in the event that we lost one, and I think actually the one we replaced was one of the extras we had.
okay.
That one was damaged.
All right, let me know. If we can put another one up at Route 20 before the season ends, that'd be nice, because it's,
Yeah, we can make that arrangement.
yeah, that was blatantly, wrecked on purpose, I think, both of them.
Yeah, it seems to be a theme this year.
Yeah, and, I have 2 residents that are kind of maintaining, like the troll under the bridge, they're maintaining the buoys at Route 20, so it's nice, but, one of them went right away, like within 2 weeks of it, it was starting to sink. They keep repairing it and pulling it out and emptying the water out, so I guess that wasn't effective for whoever's wrecking them, so they went back and slashed the thing. So, and there's no repairing it at this point. Okay, and, update, lake management plan. So, weed mapping. We mapped the weed?
We have been working with TRC, formerly ESS,
Yeah.
to get out and map the weeds on Lake Quinsigamond. They were supposed to go out last week. I just received an update today that they're hoping to get out tomorrow.
Okay, so that's in process.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Jack.
I guess my question was if the weeds have been treated yet.
No, when's that
I don't know.
All right,
But it hasn't been.
no. So they should still be there.
Yes, so.
All right.
so
That's why we didn't treat.
So yes, they've been having some boat staffing issues, so they will be going out tomorrow and hopefully done by Tuesday.
All right, thanks, Jacqueline.
Yep.
All right, so update on the pilot study for natural heritage. That's the pilot study in Half Moon Cove and Old Faith Bay, Half Moon Bay and Old Faith Cove. And that's still in process. We got the information in from Don Pageant, the divers, and ESS, so we can submit that. And the treatments we have not done, but they're scheduled, I guess, we're getting ready to go. We were holding up a little bit because we wanted to see if we could hit Half Moon and Old Faith for the first time, but Half Moon again, because there was just a little bit of an area on Half Moon that we didn't get last year. The Porcelicore that we used in Half Moon, when you're not allowed to use in the same spot like 2 years in a row, you gotta give it a rest. But it did knock it back in the milfoil side of it. Some other stuff had popped up, and we have a pretty healthy crop of Potamogeton in there. So the original one was successful. And update on the proposal for drawdown permits at Newton Pond. We're still waiting for, that's also in process, so I'm still waiting for some word back. The update on the Grafton CPC project, I'm actually going to ask Bill for help on this because he knows more about it than I do.
Well,
You've got the report, correct?
yes, the first half of the project, the report on the past history of pollutants that could have leaked into Flint Pond going back to 1938 was submitted by EAS on earlier this week, or was it Friday? It was either Monday
Well, there
or
was a
Friday.
preliminary thing on Friday, and then
Yeah.
they published the full
They
thing.
published the full thing, I
Yeah.
guess it was late Monday or early Tuesday.
Yeah, it was
And,
yesterday.
2,000 pages. I've read the first, 100 or so.
It's literally 2,000 pages?
Yeah,
Only 1,900.
1,965.
Yeah,
Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
I
Yeah,
kid you not.
I decided not to print it out.
I was gonna peruse it, like, I guess I'm not perusing.
The executive summary is only 10 pages. And so you really should read the first 10 pages of the
big print?
executive summary.
Okay.
And he wants, well, ESS wants us, you and me and Angela in particular, to have a phone conversation with him as soon as possible, hopefully maybe even Thursday or Friday, to discuss when they can get out in the lake and start to do the sampling of the second half of the project.
Okay, so we'll talk about this offline, but I'm available, I guess, in the next couple of days if that's good for you. All right,
Yeah,
that's through Craig?
that's correct.
Okay. Did you, in the executive summary, were the aerial photographs?
Yes, and I had the same thoughts that you did.
Okay.
And Craig apparently was very aware of what we were thinking, because it's mentioned numerous times in the report that these aerial photographs, particularly the early ones back 60 or more years ago, some were taken in the winter, some fall, some spring, and trying to compare exactly where there was possible water separating Sergeant's Island from Sergeant's Peninsula is not quite possible to decide. It could be swamp, or it could be filled-in land, but you can't really tell going way back to 1938 whether it was open water.
That was my comment.
Yeah.
The aerial photographs were very cool, though, because they show all the way up, I think, to almost, I think, to Plum Island, so where the Tacit Beach was, and all the way, the whole of Flint Pond and the whole area. But 1938, I mean, it was three of the aerial photographs were before the Edgemere Drive-In was there, and they have another one that's there. So they have, I think it was 38, 57 or something, and 62 and 67. So it was interesting to see it, and especially Oak Island, where you could see where Oak Island was separated from Route 20, and the road to get on there was actually off of Pineland Road to get on, and there must have been something in there, because one of the ones were out with leaves on the trees, you could see the roads in it. You could also see when the high tensions were there and they weren't there, so it was an interesting thing.
Chair, if I can mention, since you mentioned a couple of things that you noticed, there were two things I noticed in particular. One thing that the report is very, very clear upon, for many years after 1938, the west culvert or opening from Lake Quinsigamond into Flint Pond under Route 20 was clearly open, and water was going through and it was passable. And in the last 10 to 12 years, the photographs clearly show that it is unpassable and is essentially blocked. And if we want to bring it back to where it should be, it obviously going to need some dredging by the state or something.
Yeah.
The second point, and which sort of surprised me, and I can't say too much on it, but being a physicist myself, I noticed that there was absolutely nothing in any of these attachments or the report about the past nuclear activities of Wyman Gordon, which from other sources I know was quite extensive. And so I'm just wondering why there's nothing in the public record they were able to find on any of that.
I'm confused, and I sent them to the Worcester TNG, because they had the whole, that whole thing in the 80s where the groundwater was messed up and people were getting cancer on Faulkner Drive, and
Yes.
they had to bring in, Wyman Gordon paid for it, in fact, that they got in town water and all of that. So we had a commissioner on and I know Ken's not here, but I think me and Mike probably the only ones who remember that is Commissioner Joe Dumas, and he lived on Faulkner Road. And, there was a common, I can see him saying it right now. I hope he's still around and okay. But, I've been around since 1935, and, we used to swim out there, and it was clear water and open and all that. And, some of those pictures, it didn't look like that to me.
No.
So, and then we got pictures going back to 38, so he was 3 years old. Anyway, but I was equally surprised about that. I'm not satisfied with that part of it, but we'll.
Yes, Bonnie Brook Cove, where Wyman Gordon during World War II dumped all its water for the military projects it was working on, is literally totally silted in, and you can't tell it from a field if you're looking at it from the air in the summer. It's just so full of weeds.
Yeah, that has, if you go over there, because I have been over there with the paddleboard, it's a purple loosestrife.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing, and it looks like land. It's actually a plant, but it looks like land. And it's beautiful to look at, but it's incredibly invasive and it shouldn't be there. It's
Yeah,
blocking the flow. But I can't find any evidence of a brook going into that.
Yeah, it's
I don't get
very
it.
hard to find.
Okay.
And even though the state, and there's references in the report that the state actually had sections of Bonnie Brook silt removed for a depth of 1.5 feet on both sides of the railroad track due to all the heavy metals that were found there. That's the only actual references to any sort of cleaning that's been
Right.
done over the last 50 years.
Interestingly as well is that I didn't see anything in there that said that you cannot disturb the bottom. Because that's what was my understanding too, that there was something in the sediment they did not want to be disturbed
Yes, yes.
out there. There's nothing which would change around some of the opportunities we would have to clear things out, like dredging, which I thought was off the table because of that, but I don't know if it is. So we're gonna look into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What the plan would be, I think, is to ask ESS to come in with some kind of hopefully visual, quick, 10-minute or so presentation that we can kind of review, maybe a presentation of the executive summary. Would that make sense?
Yes.
So we can get everything out there, because 2,000 pages, that's,
Almost all of it, he attached all of the reports going back to 1938. from
Right.
All of the other sampling that has been
I
done.
thought I was gonna parse some of those, but I guess not.
And it did. The further comment on that, since it's relevant, a number of those reports do record that a lot of beryllium has been found in various tests over the last 60 or so years in the sediment in that part, the east half of the southern part of Flint Pond, which we know was that's what Wyman Gordon was doing during World War II, was beryllium machining for the
And that's for
nuclear
Bonnie
projects.
Brook Cove is, it's in that side of it.
The sampling should probably do no more than, as far as the beryllium is concerned, confirm all of the previous studies.
Okay. Beryllium, if I'm, sorry, I'm mangling that, but just for my own iteration, that is not a naturally occurring
No.
substance.
Very, very dangerous as a dust. If it's breathed in, it literally causes cancer, and there's really no cure if you've got beryllium dust in your lungs. But beryllium is extremely reactive with water, and that if this was done during World War II, we're talking of 60 years of the beryllium sitting down on the bottom of Flint Pond. It had plenty of time to react with water. Within in the air, it reacts within seconds.
Okay.
So
So it's
beryllium oxide is harmless, basically.
in the water.
Well, once it's oxidized,
Once it oxidizes, it's,
any place it's.
okay. All right, don't drink the water in Flint Pond. Okay, thanks, Bill. Good job. Update from Jacqueline Burmeister, Senior Environmental Analyst, Lake and Pond, City of Worcester.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Do you have my test results from my sampling?
Yes, they're right here.
I saw them. They were much better than the last one.
Take one at a time. So, my name is Jacqueline Burmeister, and I'm a Senior Environmental Analyst and Coordinator of the Lakes and Ponds Program in the City of Worcester.
Thank you.
And coordinator.
Thanks.
So, mostly just coordinator now. So we go out and we sample Lake Quinsigamond. We've been keeping an eye on the water quality throughout the season, both with our internal monitoring program and our community science program. The last time we were out was on the 24th of August. Water temperature is finally starting to come down. 25 degrees Celsius, about 77 degrees Fahrenheit, is warm, but it's not as warm as it was about 2 weeks ago. We have a lot of oxygen in the water and very low levels of phosphorus, which of course is a nutrient of concern, a contaminant that we're always on the lookout for in Lake Quinsigamond since it's able to cause cyanobacteria blooms. Something we're also really interested in watching in the wake of some of the challenges that we've had with both the sites up on Hospital Drive in the beginning of the year, causing plumes of sediment coming into the lake, as well as the Lake Ave pump station overflow in February. While we have had several exceedances in the last week for Enterococcus fecal bacteria at Regatta Point, causing closures there, we have not seen this in the open water. They seem to be pretty localized and coming down pretty quickly after the rain events. One of the reasons why we've seen a reduction, we believe, in the number of closures this summer is that we have had a lot less rain, which is usually how a lot of this bacteria ends up in the water. Clarity is about average for right now, about 11 feet of clarity, how far down you could see in the water. And clarity is just like one of those really intuitive measures of water quality, right? How clear the water is really does help us to assess visually the water quality, and is something we can actually measure. So we're about average where we're supposed to be, and we'll be going out again on the 14th. Lake profiles. Lake Quinsigamond has some really interesting dynamics as far as temperature and oxygen in the water, and because it's so deep, and that cold water on the bottom actually causes the warm water on top to float and create barriers for oxygen to move around. This has implications for our fish populations, which both like cold water and oxygen-rich waters. These profiles really just show where that barrier starts to occur for our fish for both temperature and oxygen stressors. And we are seeing that the amount of oxygen in the water has been reduced at very low parts of the lake. So really there's only enough oxygen in the upper 20 feet of the water for a lot of fish. And this is something we see every year, but we keep an eye on it to make sure it's not getting to the point where it's causing fish kills or incredible stress. So that's what those graphs on the top are for. And then finally, our WCMC results. This is the Worcester Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative, our volunteers that go out and collect water quality samples on the lake to test for those organisms that could cause toxic blooms, cyanobacteria. We have seen a couple of these blooms in Shrewsbury already, as well as in Worcester. These volunteers are kind of trying to predict when they're going to occur. We see that, I threw Jordan Pond in here since I thought it might be of interest. Both Jordan and Newton Pond are in the low risk category. Flint Pond, we are seeing a little bit more cyanobacteria activity, but a little bit less than last sampling. So we seem to be tailing off on that as well. Unfortunately, we did not get a sample from Lake Quinsigamond this last round, this past weekend. Have a link here to the water chestnut video. My understanding, and I don't want to steal the thunder, is that there's been some great water chestnut polls going on. If you want more information on that, you could scan this QR code. As I already mentioned, we are hoping to do a mapping of the invasive aquatic plants. The idea is that this map is going to make it easier for us to mobilize resources and more specifically target different types of invasive plants with specific chemicals to most efficiently eradicate them in the future. So does anyone have any questions?
Quick question.
Yep.
On the Flint Pond results here, Flint Pond has three basins, the east and west south of Route 20 and the north basin north of Route 20. Which basin was sampled?
This,
This was the,
yeah?
because it's right in front of my house, so it's the, it's the western, southern basin,
West southern basin.
smack dab in the middle.
Okay. Correct?
This is where our volunteer brought the sample from.
Right off my dock.
Ah, would you be the sample?
I'm not saying that. I do a taste test too.
Taste test?
Jacqueline, do you have any information about the Bridal Path and Lake Ave pumping stations? As we know, the sewerage that goes through those lines has impacted the lake.
Sure. So you're asking about the recent work that's going on at those locations?
There's a road called Bridal Path that
Yes.
goes to Coburn Ave, that's the south end of Quinsigamond State Park. There's been some project going on there relative to that low-level pumping station that pumps sewerage now, for everybody's knowledge. I've heard like nothing about that, but I know there's a project that's been going on there for months, as well as we know, and unfortunately, I was just made aware of it a little late, that there was an MCL meeting by the city discussing the recent updates to the Lake Ave pumping station. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there. And I didn't see it covered by the paper either in terms of any news about it. So I'm just curious as to whether there's some succinct update you can give us about those.
Right. And I know there are some representatives from the Watershed Association who were present at that meeting who may be able to give you an update. I was not present at that meeting. It's really more of an engineering update on the different systems and upgrades that are in place at the station to prevent something like that from happening in the future. As far as the other pump station, I could try and get a more specific update of what's going on there. My understanding is that they're building redundancy into the system so as to avoid future issues there. But I could make sure to have a more formal report on both of those for the next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Any other questions, comments? Okay, perfect. Thanks much. Okay. Speaking of the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association, an update from Barbara Kick.
Barbara Kickham, Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. Yeah, I was at the meeting, Mike at the Marine Corps League, Pete was there, Mike Liberty was there. It was not as well attended as the one in May, but the people that were there were pretty animated. Were very interested in getting real answers, and we're still waiting to hear the results of what's going on with the pumps, why the backups weren't in operation at the time, what is their liability with the manufacturers, with the engineers. So that still remains to be worked out. But there is a report out, and they, talked about that a little bit. So they're still working on it, and as Jackie mentioned, they have the redundant system that's going to stay permanent now, so they'll be in touch. There'll probably be another meeting. So
That's the plan, is to update the meeting.
Yeah. So, and also to kind of, you can steal my thunder anytime, Jackie. We did do a lot of water chestnut removal this year. We had a lot of volunteers. Bags and bags, so many bags of water chestnut, particularly from Sunset Beach, and that area, basically that midsection of the lake. There's been several independent efforts on Facebook going out. There was one this past Saturday, so people are continuing to at least try to do their neighborhood. I know I go out in my kayak and just pick up random areas of, where there's water chestnuts. So there's some big, large areas, and then there's scattered all over the lake. So I'm not sure how many people we've had involved in it, because, like I said, it's kind of taken off its life of its own, and that's what we want, because it's really a lot of work, and it's not one and done. It's going to be basically forever, because as we've talked about, the water chestnuts have like a 10-year, 12-year life when they're buried in the sediments, and so you can keep removing them, but they drop their seeds and they can live there for a very long time. So every year we hopefully will see less, but we're going to need to get people out a lot. So thanks everybody, and keep up the efforts. We also have been doing bacteria sampling. This is our third year for bacteria sampling. We have a summer intern from Worcester State, and we've done 5 rounds. We go basically every 2 weeks. We have seen an uptick in the bacteria counts, and that's sort of because I think the water, it's very hot. Bacteria has a better chance to grow. It kind of just sits there. There's not a lot of runoff. So we'll have results at maybe the October meeting, definitely November. We'll roll out our results. The bacteria counts, again, in our mid-lake samples always are good, so whatever comes in, animals, whatever's causing high bacteria at the tributaries. By the time it gets to the middle part of the lake where people are swimming and boating, it's always very safe. So I want to stress that. But we do see, we are seeing somewhat higher bacteria, even though it hasn't rained much. And then we're also participating in the Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative, and we can use more volunteers because people go on vacation. This past Saturday, our lake didn't get covered, so we're always looking for more volunteers, and we're looking for more volunteers for the watershed in general. So don't think it's a closed club and we're not inviting any more people in. We're always looking for more volunteers. I think we're experiencing some burnout. There's some people who are doing a lot of work, and we'd like to get some new faces just to do one activity a summer, and it really just spreads out the load, and we get a lot more done. So that's it.
All right. Mr. Piker.
If I can, let me just say that, everyone here is a volunteer on this commission. We do not receive any monetary remuneration for our work, as well as what Barbara's talking about. I mean, we're all stewards of the lake. We are, as abutters and users of the lake, and we really need to maintain a core of volunteers to maintain the lake, because without all this effort in terms of, for instance, what Barbara has talked about in terms of activity on the part of the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association, the lake would be more degraded than it is, and it's not a static thing. We have to maintain effort to keep the lake as good as we can, otherwise it would go in reverse. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well said. Join the watershed. I think that's what he was trying to say. It's a good organization. The water chestnut, I also want to shout out to the town of Shrewsbury, because we got upwards of 80 bags of water chestnut that we dragged up onto the police boathouse, and they came and got them out of the way. So I want to thank those guys for that, because that got them out of our hair. Hopefully they didn't go and dump them in Jordan Pond.
No.
Actually, what does happen to them? How do you dispose of them?
It goes to where's it go? Does it go to the incinerator? It goes to landfill? Where's it go?
Probably the landfill.
What, landfill? Yeah. So,
Honestly, no, I don't know.
you don't know, okay?
Yeah, I don't want to say the wrong place.
All right. You check your car?
They're not in my car.
All right, so it was a lot of bags. It was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So when we've had some volunteers also, that a lot of people showed up that on the concentrated days where we actually did stuff, and there was people. It was like an armada. There was people in kayaks and a rowboat and paddle boards and canoes and all kinds of stuff. So
That's wonderful.
It was great
The
to
effort.
see that. And there's been at least one gentleman who keeps going back, and he'll fill up his rowboat. And we got some of the, we'll say, easy pickings, but they were big patches of them. And I'm saying the patches probably the size of the room, big stuff. But then it got caught up, and so they blended in with the lily pads over there. And on the east side of Round Pond, or that northern basin of Flint Pond, they call it, they were in that. And I believe they go all the way back. So that's an enormous bed if it's in there, and it's really hard to get at them because you can't bring a boat in there.
No.
You can't bring even a canoe gets stuck on the lily. So, so that's that. So,
Pete, I have a question.
yeah.
If it's that large, why didn't the ESS mapping pick this up years ago? If it's that large.
Well, I was in those lily pads because when I first got my paddle board, I went everywhere I could. And you can kind of there's little paths. It's like a maze. You can go through there. I didn't see any. I didn't see anything last year. I didn't see anything the year before. So now, as a disclosure, I wasn't actually looking for water chestnut, but I was looking for other stuff. So I noticed with the lily pad, and they were all seemed to be lily pad to me. My eyes are a little bit more trained now because I can see the other stuff. maybe it was in there, they didn't catch it. Good question, and we're gonna ask them to do a better job, but the other thing with ESS is they can't get in there either. I mean, it's a quagmire of, you literally get stuck in a canoe with no keel on it. It's like land. So it's tough to get in there. But, you know, we'll ask the next person that does the mapping to keep an eye out for that stuff, especially in that area. But it's good to know it's there. Moving on to that, and the correspondence, and Mike had brought this up earlier, there was a resident on Lakeside Drive that has lily pads in front of his house. I believe he's somewhat correct. I'm confident those lily pads were in front of his house, or lily pads were in front of his house when he moved in there, because I had property on that side of the Lakeside Drive, and, you know, they've always been in there. I do agree with him that they've gotten bigger. The patches and the growths have gotten bigger inside there, so it's taken up. And I'm not sure if that's because the weather was warm and the water was down and they got the take a little bit better. I guess my question is, because to date, lily pads have not been a target for our weed treatments because they're native. So is that something we could target if they became a nuisance? So yes. Okay. I mean, maybe that's something we consider. The next question is, you know, is that a different chemical than we use, you know, than Clipper and Sonar and Procyllicor and a myriad of other tools we have on there? You don't want to hand pick them.
No. I'm not sure if it's covered by the current order of conditions or not.
Diquat or whatever, yeah, so I guess we have to figure that out. But, you know, to respond to the thing, at least on the surface of it, pardon the expression, that's something we can look at, because it's becoming an issue all over the place.
Mr. Chair, a question for Jacqueline.
Sure.
There are many different species of lily pads. Are there any of them that are listed by the state as endangered
Oh, that's a great question.
Or protected,
or protected?
yeah. Some of them are protected, I think. There's a white and a yellow. I forgot which
Yeah.
one was
And a
which.
pink.
And you
The
know,
pink.
the
Pink?
mapping.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. I don't, you
Is
don't,
that a lily pad, or is that?
no, that's a lily pad. I see them down in Plymouth and Carver.
But it's not, the last pink ones we saw in Lake Quinsigamond were sacred lotus. They look like a lily pad, but those things are incredibly invasive and nasty, not indigenous. So, big elephant ear leaves. So if you see that, the pink ones, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful pink flower.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, you may have seen it on all the Chinese menus, Chinese restaurant menus.
Yes.
Sacred lotus, yeah.
Monet's garden.
Not good. I think you can eat them, though. Again, not out of Flint Pond, but maybe somewhere else. All right,
To answer that
Brilliant.
question, the mapping that we're doing, we are colloquially calling it a weed mapping, but it is an aquatic plant mapping. So in addition to identifying where the invasive plants are, we're also interested in what are the native plant populations and how is that changing over time? Because those native plant populations, of course, are the home to our juvenile fish and other creatures in the lake that we want to continue to protect. And so that will also be noted in the report.
all right, perfect. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, date for the next meeting, September,
28th, Mr. Chair, 7 PM?
what?
So we don't have a room the 28th, so we have September 21st,
Oh.
the week before.
Okay, and we're gonna give plenty of notice so people know it's a week early, including the chair.
Giving you notice right now.
Like sometime closer to the date.
I know.
Okay,
So it's the 21st.
all right, and we'll be
We'll be
meeting
here.
here? Okay.
You can also plug it into your smartphone.
Is that what that's for? Huh? Okay. I thought it was like, so I could, you know, play Candy Crush. All right. I will take, if there's, no one else has any fun stuff to bring up, I'll take, Patrick, I'm sorry, You don't have any fun stuff? Luke? All right. Everybody's good? Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
Is it-
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming.